Hey, in this video I'm going to go through a process which I found very helpful for generating feedback forms for Bournemouth University. I'm using LibreOffice, which is a version of OpenOffice, which is free and available. If you happen to be using Microsoft Office Suite, then the process is very similar, but the buttons will be in different places. But I'm using this version because it's cross-platform and freely available, so you can obviously follow me on this. To start with, I've generated a spreadsheet of all of the feedback that I've got from my various markers. This is actually feedback from the major project and report sheet, but I've anonymized it, so all of the names are anonymous and all of the feedback is just lorem ipsum, but the marks actually are the original marks. The reason why spreadsheets are really useful for this is that the contents of the spreadsheet are formatting neutral, so you don't have any formatting hiccups. But probably the main reason for having spreadsheets is obviously you can contain whatever fields you like. And the other thing which I wanted to point out here, you can obviously edit the contents of the field where it expands like this. The other thing which I wanted to highlight was for mark checking, it's essentially very useful to, instead of actually having a hard-coded or calculated value that you might be doing in your head, you can rely on the spreadsheet calculation to do this for you. So let me just do this from scratch so that you understand what's going on. So if I want to fill in a total field here, the process of using a formula in Excel and other spreadsheets is essentially to start the line with an equals sign. So in this cell I'm going to start with an equals. Then I'm going to use a function called sum, which is going to add up the contents of whatever I want to add up. And then I'm just going to select the cells themselves. So I'm going to sum up all on row 2. So that's going to be C2, R2, E2, G2, and I2. And if I close the bracket on that, then automatically it's calculated the value for me. Now if I want to propagate that in the consecutive cells, and this is the magic of spreadsheets, I just have to paste over the contents of the original cells, so let's just ignore that I've already done it in these. And by overwriting, what actually happens is that the spreadsheet automatically increments all of the numeric values of the row, right? Because it's figured out that this is the next row. Oops, I'm actually changing values here. I don't want to do that. So it's figured out that this is in fact the next row, and it's replaced all my 2s with a 3 and 4s, etc. ad nauseum. So it's done all my calculations for me, and all I've had to do is paste the contents into the cell. Now, so that's more or less a complete feedback form. You can include whatever you like in this, even material that's not going to be used in the feedback form itself. And the other thing that's important to note is that for external examiners, it's very useful to have this spreadsheet because the feedback forms are actually very tedious for them to go through, and especially for them to pull out data. And also for your own purposes, it's much easier for your unit monitoring report to pull data out by analyzing the contents of, for example, your results column. For the next part of this, I'm going to show you how to generate feedback forms automatically using MailMerge. Okay, so I'm back. I've got a course feedback form. This is one from 2014-15. I believe the feedback forms have changed slightly. I've had to rebuild this because the word template feedback form was full of formatting errors when used in OpenOffice, but it's not too much work to do this. It's just a couple of tables. The feedback criteria I've used here are the standard university feedback criteria, but I've used my own weightings here. Actually, I just realized my spreadsheet's going to be wrong for that reason. The weightings are based on, I don't know, an arbitrary decision based on the requirements or the intended learning outcomes of the unit. This is the kind of feedback form that I think the students want to see, where they have essentially each of the criteria has an individual mark and separate feedback for each criteria. So then in effect the summary is quite a brief section. So this allows them to determine what they can improve at a more granular level, and I think this kind of feedback is really the way that we need to proceed with the way that we deliver feedback. Now, what I'm going to show you now is the process of generating all of the feedback sheets automatically so that you can return it to student support. The process that we're going to use is we're going to use the spreadsheet that we've just created, and that spreadsheet is going to be essentially loaded in as a database, and then the database fields will populate the feedback form itself. So to do this, what you have to do is under the LibreOffice edit menu, which I realize is not being captured, so you'll have to trust me on this. Click on the Exchange Database field. So if you click on Exchange Database, you'll get a list of what databases are currently in use. So obviously I've already used this for various units. I'm going to browse to access this particular one. So I'm going to go down to resources, feedback. Okay, so I'm going to use the mark sheet that I've just generated all the feedback into as my input. So if I open that up, the sheet of that mark sheet that I just showed you on this, the spreadsheet that I've showed you, is now available for me to use as my database data source. So if I click on define, this is now loaded up. Now, again, I just realized this is now off camera, so you're going to have to trust me on this. We're going to look at hang on. Data sources, if I can find it. So under view, data sources, and then this toolbar is going to open up, and it's going to show me that basically all the spreadsheet data that we had is all going to be sitting up the top. Now, to use MailMerge, what you're going to do is you're going to essentially drag the head of the column here onto your feedback form. So I'm going to drag that over there, and it's going to stick in there. So this is student's first name, and we're going to read in the first name. The last name, we're just going to drag it over there. Then for the first criteria, which are called R1 mark, for report 1 mark, I'm going to drag it in there. And for the particular feedback, I'm going to drag it in there. R2 mark, drag it in there. Come on, get in there. Whoop. Okay, there'll be a brief intermission while my mouse tries to figure this out. There we go. R2 mark, feedback, okay. R3, I'm probably going to trim this section because it's pretty tedious. Okay, one thing that I should mention is that if you want to do formatting on the fields, you can do it straight onto the so this the grayed out fields in my feedback form mean that it's going to be replaced when I do a MailMerge. So moderator comments. This is kind of interesting. So what I can do is I can say this is the report summary is the main comments, presumably from the first marker, and then I can add additional stuff here like moderator comments if necessary, if I have any, which I do apparently in this case. So I'm going to stick that over there. Then we've got the total mark, which I'm going to put over there and under agreed mark, and first marker, first mark date, second marker. Anyway, you should be getting the picture now. Second mark date. Okay. So I've populated the feedback form, and now all I need to do is run a MailMerge. So there's a button over here for MailMerge, which I'm going to whack, and essentially it has a wizard which we'll proceed through, but I'll proceed through pretty quickly because most of these things are pretty much, you want the default options. So we're going to use the current document. We're going to create a letter, we might as well. Obviously the purpose of MailMerge was for generating bulk mail messages for clients or whatnot. So we're kind of using it for a different purpose, but a letter is sufficient. We don't have to worry about an address block. We don't have to worry about salutations. We are not going to edit any individual document or exclude any recipients. I'm going to generate all of them, and it's going to go ahead and manufacture 93 feedback templates. Okay, it's now just appeared in the background and maximized, unfortunately, so let me see if I can bring that back down. Oh, I see, I don't have focus, right. So I also have the opportunity to edit individual documents, which I don't recommend, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save the whole bunch of feedback forms in one big lump. So save as individual documents or save as single documents. If you save as individual documents, then it'll rename them with the number 1 through 93 in this case. But that means you're going to have lots and lots of files, so I recommend just saving one document. And then I'm going to say dummy feedback generated.odt. Let's just set my format to OpenOffice text document, and it's all saved. So now we're done. So, and if I go back, well, actually, let me open up the results. So if I file, open, and dummy feedback generated, which I'll open, and let's actually make it fit into my capture area. Right, and there we are. So Anonymous has lots and lots of lovely feedback populated in the field. And then, of course, there's the next Anonymous and ad nauseum. So there are 93 feedback sheets here ready to be sent to your student administrator. So the one thing to note about this, the benefits of this process are it's completely painless. All your marks are basically kept in the spreadsheet, and the other thing, the nice thing about the spreadsheet, of course, is that you can check your marks. So you will probably be minimizing errors in the marking criteria. I see also that I made a bit of a boo-boo here, and I've got this second marker name in bold. Maybe I want my moderator comments in italics. Obviously the way to do that is to go back to my original form, and I see I've already modified my original form, but it's possible to go back to my original template form and change this field into something that's not bold. Okay, and that's it. I hope this is useful. All right, cheers.